Hello and welcome. So you're here because you understand English, right? You get the movies, the songs, the podcasts, but then when it's your turn to speak, it feels like the words just get stuck. You know you have all this knowledge in your head, but you just can't seem to use it. Well, today we are going to fix that. We're going to talk about a really powerful physical technique that's designed to close that frustrating gap and finally unlock the fluent English speaker that you know is inside of you.
Here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk about the speaking problem, that feeling that so many of us have. Then we'll get into why speaking is actually a physical skill, which might change the way you think about it. After that, we'll introduce the solution, the shadowing method, and break it down into 3 simple stages. We'll look at the kind of results you can expect, and then we'll finish up with your very first challenge to get you started.
All right, let's start with a situation. I want you to tell me if this sounds familiar. Imagine you're watching a movie in English, no subtitles, or maybe listening to a podcast. You're following along perfectly. You get it all, the vocabulary, the jokes, the tone. And in that moment, you feel pretty good, right? You think to yourself, yeah, my English is great. I understand this.
But then the scene changes. You're in a real conversation. Maybe a native speaker asks you a simple question, like, "What did you do this weekend?" And suddenly, all of that confidence just evaporates. Your mind goes blank, the pressure's on, and all that English you understood so perfectly just a minute ago, it feels like it's vanished into thin air. So that brings us to the big question we're here to answer today.
This is that moment, that awful feeling of freezing up. You know the words are somewhere in your head. You can almost feel them on the tip of your tongue. But your mouth feels like it won't cooperate, and you just can't get the words out smoothly or quickly enough. You might stumble, use really simple words, or maybe you just end up staying quiet. It's so frustrating because you know exactly what you want to say, but that connection between your brain and your mouth feels, well, it feels broken.
You know, there's actually a name for this feeling. It's called the input-output gap. What this means is you have fantastic passive fluency. You can take in information, that's the input, and understand it perfectly. But you don't have active fluency yet, which is the ability to produce the language yourself. That's the output. It's like having a huge library of books in your head, but you can't pull a single one off the shelf when you need it.
So why does this gap exist? The real reason is a total shift in how we think about language. Here's the secret. Speaking English isn't really an academic subject. It's a physical sport. The problem isn't that you don't have enough knowledge. The problem is that your muscles don't have enough training.
Think about it this way. For years, you've probably treated English like a history class. You know, memorizing vocabulary, learning grammar rules, trying to remember everything for a test. But a real conversation doesn't give you time to think and remember facts. To speak fluently, you have to start treating English like a gym class. It's a physical skill you build through repetition over and over until it becomes automatic muscle memory.
And when I say muscles, I mean actual muscles. The ones you use for speaking. Your tongue, your lips, your jaw, your throat. These are all controlled by dozens of tiny muscles. And for your entire life, they have been trained to perform the perfect choreography for your native language, its unique sounds, rhythm, and flow. English, though, it requires a completely different dance.
And this is the most important part to understand. Your brain can know a word perfectly. Take a word like thoroughly. You see it, you know what it means, you can probably spell it. But your mouth has likely never done the complex gymnastics required to say it smoothly. That TH sound, the R, the L, that's a whole physical routine that your mouth just hasn't practiced enough to do automatically.
Okay, so if it's a physical problem, how do we train these muscles? Well, we need a specific workout for your mouth. It's not about studying more books, it's about training in a different way.
This workout is called the shadowing technique, and it is hands down one of the most powerful ways to build that physical fluency and muscle memory.
Now, this is really important. Shadowing is not listen and repeat. Not at all. With the old method, you listen, then you pause, you think, maybe you translate in your head, and then you speak. That pause is what keeps you slow. Shadowing is totally different. You listen and you speak at the exact same time. It forces a direct connection between your ears and your mouth, and it completely bypasses that slow, analytical part of your brain.
I mean, think of it literally. You become the speaker's shadow. When their mouth moves, your mouth moves. Instantly. You don't wait for them to finish the sentence. You start talking almost at the same time they do, just a split second behind. You're not just copying the words. You're copying the music, the rhythm, the stress, the way words link together, the entire melody of the language.
Now, this technique is incredibly powerful, but it can also feel a little intense at first. So to make it easy and really effective, we're going to break it down into a clear step-by-step training plan. There are 3 stages, and each one builds perfectly on the last.
So here's the game plan for your workout. We start with the blind shadow, which is all about listening. Then we move to the mumble, where you start to feel the physical rhythm of the language. And finally, the performance, where you put it all together. So let's take a closer look at each one.
Stage 1 is the absolute foundation. And honestly, it's the one people are tempted to skip. You have to do this blind. That means no text, no transcript, no subtitles. Why? Because the moment you look at the words, your brain tries to take over. It sees the letters and wants to apply the pronunciation rules from your own language. We have to break that habit. By listening only, you force your ears to be the guide, training them to hear how English really sounds.
Okay, after you've listened a few times, you move to stage 2, the mumble. Now you start speaking along with the audio, but softly. Don't worry about making clear words, just mumble. The goal here isn't perfect pronunciation. The goal is to feel the music of the language in your mouth. You're copying the rhythm, the stress, the intonation. You're getting the physical flow down before your brain can get in the way and overthink it. And that brings us to stage 3, the performance. Now, you can finally look at the text if you need to, but you're not just going to read it, you're going to perform it. You need to become an actor. So if the speaker says, "Oh my gosh," with a lot of excitement, you can't say it in a flat robot voice. You have to copy that exact same emotion. Emotion is what drives intonation, and this is the key to sounding natural. But what happens when you hit a part that's just too fast, or the words all blend together and you just can't get it? Well, here's a pro tip. Use something called micro-shadowing. Just isolate that one tricky sentence, put it on a loop, listen to it over and over, then mumble it over and over, then perform it over and over until it feels easy. It's just like a piano player practicing one difficult part of a song until their fingers can do it without even thinking. Okay, so let's say you actually do this. You commit to this physical training. What's the payoff? What kind of real, tangible results are you going to see and feel in your own speaking? Let's talk about the skills you're going to build.
Well, a few amazing things start to happen. First, your listening gets so much better. You start hearing all the little connected sounds you were missing before. Second, your pronunciation starts to improve automatically because you're constantly copying a perfect model. And this is the big one, your passive vocabulary. All those words you know but never use starts to become active. They move from the back of your mind to the tip of your tongue, ready to go when you need them. What you're doing fundamentally is building a strong, physical bridge from your brain to your mouth. You're creating a superhighway for words. So when you're in a real conversation, you don't have to search for a word or a phrase. Your mouth already knows the movement. It's not magic, it is pure and simple muscle memory. All right, you now have the theory. You understand the why,
and you know the how. Now it's time for the most important part, taking action. In this last section, let's talk about your very first challenge so you can start building that bridge for yourself today.
Here is your first assignment. It's simple. Find just 1 minute of English audio that you like. It could be from a speech, a podcast, whatever. Just make sure the speaker is clear. Then set aside 20 minutes to practice just that single minute. Go through all 3 stages: blind shadow, mumble, and performance. Keep going until you can speak along with that 1 minute perfectly, matching every sound, rhythm, and feeling.
Once you master that 1 minute, you are going to feel a completely new sense of control over your English voice. You will have proven to yourself that you can do this, that you can sound the way you want to sound. Fluency isn't some far-off, impossible dream. It's a physical skill, and it's something you can build 1 minute at a time. The only question is, are you ready to start building your bridge?